The other vitiating factor that we have is what we call duress. Duress can also be known as coercion. It is both common law and statutory law in Uganda. The Contracts Act has come in to explain what duress or coercion is. Section 2 has clearly explained what duress is, and basically this is where someone does something out of fear. Someone can appear before you and tell you, you do ABCD, otherwise I will shoot you. So you do something because of fear, but not because you wanted to do it. So you realize that duress affects one of the key elements of entering a contract. That is the element of free will or the consent, the consensus addendum. Why? Because you didn't do something because you wanted, but because of the threats that were placed onto you, really caused the aspect of duress or caused you to enter into a contract. So realize that the effect of duress is provided for under Section 13 of the Contracts Act, and majorly it will lead the contract, or it will declare the contract avoidable when you look at provisions of Section 13. So you should know that with duress, it is of two types of duress in Uganda or in contract. Don't look at the other duress in Section 17 of the Penal Code Act. No, that is different. With this, it must be personal duress. So duress is personal in Uganda or in contract. The duress must be done on you in person, and it must be a continuing duress. If it is a pistol, it is on you, continuing until you finish the transaction. Not your son, not your wife. So if they arrest your wife and they tell you to do something in contract, that will not be interpreted as duress. It must be on you in person, and it must be continuing until you finish the transaction. Then the other duress is what we call economic duress, and that one has developed over time. Various cases such as DC Brothers versus Rees have come in to explain economic duress. Though most of the people believe in personal duress, but also economic duress has developed. So economic duress, this is where now the threats are not on you in person, but are on your economic or in your economy. For example, someone can say, unless you do ABCD, we are going to place a bomb on your building. So in fear of your building being bombed down, you do something that you didn't have done. So that one will amount to what we call economic duress when you look at provisions, or when you look at the decisions in DC Builders versus Rees. Then the other vitiating factor, which is the last vitiating factor, it is undue influence. Now, what is undue influence? Undue influence, this is where a person in a dominant position, like you here, undue influence. This is where someone in a dominant position, after assessing your need, desire, you are in a position where you need, but because someone sees that you are in a position of need, he wants to use that advantage to cheat you. Usually it occurs in cheating, contracts of money lending. All those contracts usually involve undue influence. For example, I go to a money lender. My son is going to sit UNEP. I don't have tuition. I tell them, you know what? I need a loan of 1 million. But they tell you, we are going to give it to you, but you are going to give us 1 million as interest. Because of the rush, you accept. Bambi. When you accept, that is undue influence. So later in time, you can challenge it under the concept of unconscionable bargain, the plea of unconscionable bargain. So you have to interest yourself in such principles. You do it because of that influence. Someone is in the dominant position. So for there to be undue influence, one must be in a dominant position. You must be in an inferior position. Example can even be pastors and their servants or their worshippers, or so-called that. They are always in top positions. They tell you, you do this, and then you do it because you think these people are very superior. So that is undue influence. Various cases have come in to challenge these undue influences. For example, the case of Juma versus Habibu, where a loan was given but an interest was high. The judicial officer, that is Moko Arach, had to reduce the interest. So you should know that undue influence also exist as a vitiating factor. Thank you very much.